at charts and you're trying to decide what to buy in this space, you have to look at Bitcoin compared to Ethereum in Bitcoin price and Bitcoin terms. So you want to look at the ETH/BTC chart. Don't look at the ETH USD chart. You want to be making Bitcoin. So that's what you're here for, right? Is to make a long-term investment in an asset that is going to grow exponentially over the next 5 or 10 years, in my opinion. And so yeah, you want to get in. You want to be making Bitcoin, and Ethereum is way down in Bitcoin terms over the past few years, and I don't see any evidence that trend is going to reverse in any meaningful way. So I would recommend staying away from Ethereum. Just work on accumulating Bitcoin and just focus on that for long term. Everything else beyond Ethereum too is really, I mean, even more experimental and more hype, less substance. It's just really a kind of a casino to play. So you can play that game, but you're going to be playing in a 24/7 market against really experienced traders, and you're going to, 99% of people who try to play that game are going to lose, and the 1%, the real pros using algorithm trading and all that stuff, they're going to take your money over any length, a relatively long period of time. So it's not a get rich quick thing. This is something to sit back and learn and just accumulate. And over the next 5 or 10 years, get as much as you can. That's my recommendation. Brandon, Breck, you have anything to add?
Hey, Brandon, go for it if you want.
I don't have too much to add. I think you did a great job there, Brady. But what I would say is that the total addressable market of Bitcoin is really, really large, like over $100 trillion. That's the market Bitcoin stands to potentially capture, where ETH might be like 5% or 10% of that. And so it's not really on the same scale. And I would also say that the world does not need what Ethereum wants to be, which is like some sort of a platform or an app store in the sky or decentralized finance or any of these things. The world just doesn't need those. We already have good versions of those that work. But what the world does not have is a good money that stores your value into the future. So you can think of Bitcoin like a savings account in cyberspace that continues to go up in value long term, and it's outside of the state. And so that solves a use case for billions of people all around the world. They need it today, and Bitcoin is trying to be that. It's already proven to be that. And so just from like a risk reward standpoint, and from a standpoint of what's good for the world, Bitcoin is clearly the.
Yeah, Brandon, reminder not to mute yourself until you're done talking, because we lost the end of that. And Aaron, I'll add one other thing about Bitcoin about Ethereum, in that it is very, very unknown what the future holds for Ethereum. They're in the process of transitioning to basically like the second version of Ethereum. And the reason they're doing this is because the first version failed. It doesn't scale, it doesn't work. And they need to transition to this new version, and which basically means that almost everything that there is no more certainty anymore. There's this thing called the Lindy effect, which basically means that the longer something has been around, like the greater the chance it's going to keep on surviving. And that kind of resets now. So, the thing about Bitcoin is it is the greatest risk-adjusted return you can get right now. And if there's this sort of myth in the crypto space about what's the word? Diversifying. And I would argue that is a myth, that you can diversifying your investments is a great idea, but diversifying into all these different altcoins that are all competing with Bitcoin, not necessarily a good idea at all. But do your own research.
All right, Aaron, does that answer your question, man?
Yeah, it does. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming up and asking your question. I appreciate you as well. All right, let's see who's next here. Q, I think you were next up. I'm going to bring you up. See Pranav, Daniel, David. In Canada, you're on deck. See you guys in there. Just hang tight and we'll get to you. Try to keep these a little bit more concise, but we have a lot to say about Ethereum. I hope that helps everyone out there, though. Hugh, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for putting this together. Yeah, so I just got involved in Bitcoin mining about 5 months ago.
Okay.
And which has been pretty exciting for me. I just kind of stumbled across it and it's been working out really well. But I have I'm trying to figure out, I know that you can hold on to Bitcoin. It's obviously very enticing when it goes up and down. And I'm just kind of wondering what kind of platforms you guys recommend. I run my own company too. I have like a digital marketing agency, so I don't have time to sit there and watch stuff go up and down. So mining kind of works because I'm kind of like farming Bitcoin, but I'm just wondering, based on your experience and your education around Bitcoin, like what are some ways that I could grow the Bitcoin? I noticed there's some accounts out there like BlockFi and stuff like that. Instead of keeping it in my wallet, would it be better to put it in one of those accounts, or how could I multiply it without it being like very time effective and kind of risking what I'm already mining?
Right. Yeah, very good question. And congrats on getting into mining. That's really awesome. It's a very competitive industry. And Bitcoin mining has really grown to be an industry. And you've got to really be on top of the game and know what you're doing now as it's become very competitive. So that's cool. Congratulations on showing success and finding success there. I know it's not easy to do. As far as like putting your Bitcoin to work, so to speak, yes, there are services like BlockFi that will give you a certain return. I think it's 6% up to 2.5 Bitcoin, 6% annualized, which is not bad. That's pretty good. However, you are taking a risk. There can be liquidation events. For instance, if the price drops quite a bit over a short period of time, that Bitcoin is being lent out to traders usually for short liquidity, and so there is a chance that you can lose your Bitcoin, and that's stated in the terms and conditions when you create your account. That being said, if you know the risks and you weigh them carefully and you want to put a little bit of your Bitcoin to work, I think that's totally reasonable decision to make as long as you're educated about the risks. And I would just suggest not putting all of your Bitcoin, in a service like that. I would keep some, just, have a stash that you're just holding for the long term. I personally don't use BlockFi. I just hold on to my Bitcoin. I know Brandon has some good things to say about this too, so I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, I think Brady mostly covered it. And I think that the most important thing here is to only put a small percentage of your stack there if you choose to do this, because the risks are plenty. There are many historical examples of this not going well. And in terms of like how good of an opportunity is it, 6% sounds really good because our savings accounts are like 0.01 or something like that. However, Bitcoin as an asset historically has gone up on average 100% each year compounded since the beginning. And that's a very high return as it is in the asset. And so I personally don't feel the need to take on any additional risk to secure 106% yield instead of 100% yield, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Hugh, I'll add something to that. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo Brandon and say that I don't think the reward is commensurate with the risk. But, if you're mining and you are, you're not having to sell all of your coins to, pay for costs or things like that. I mean, why not reinvest and mine more, something like that? Or,
yeah, that's what I've been doing. It's funny. I started off with a couple machines, and then as I saw the returns, I got addicted to it, and I just got, more mining equipment. And, what's great is I work with a program where it's kind of like a little bit of an affiliate program. So it actually gives me an ability to earn more Bitcoin. But, one of the things I keep looking at it go up and down, I'm like, well, that could be a good opportunity. But, I've talked to some people that study crypto between mining and buying and selling. And they're like, well, as soon as you move it over, then you're paying a fee. And then if you don't time it the right way, you might as well just leave it there and benefit on the mining. And so, it's always enticing, right? When we see stuff like go up and down, and you're like, oh yeah, I could have like maybe sold it and then bought it at 30, and then when it goes back up to 40, but I'd almost rather just kind of leave it, there. But that's a good point.
Hugh, can I just double check? You're not cloud mining, are you?
No, it's actually physical mining, and the company I work with, they have data centers, so they're paying like a really low rate for kilowatt hours.
Okay, great.
And so I pay them. Yeah, I pay them for the hosting and the electricity. I own the machine technically. If I wanted them to ship it to me, I could, and then I use it as a. I mean, I'm not giving financial advice in any way to anyone here. I'm not a financial planner, and I don't claim to be. But when I went to my accountant, he's like, "Hey, you could write off that mining equipment in your corporation and take depreciation on the machine." And I was like, "Cool, that's a good write-off." But I did double, triple, quadruple down on the mining, because once I saw it working, I was like, you have $50K in the bank, and it's like, at the end of the year, you might make $500. And then you look at what you could get from mining and you're like, okay, well, this makes sense. So it just made sense for me. And I'm really excited that I stumbled across it. So
cool, man. I would just say continue to learn about mining and how it works. And
one more question
lots
too,
of good resources out there.
One more question, because I've heard nightmares from some of my friends where I've called them up. Like I have a friend in Australia who's like, "Oh my God, dude," he's like, "I would have had $42 million, but I lost the key. I don't know where it is." So I leave it in a blockchain wallet, and I can move it out at any time. And but I know some people, they get like the cold wallets or the drives, and I would just be scared. Like, what if something happened to that? So I think sometimes being super too safe could be dangerous. Like I've seen people buy these external, drives. What's your feeling around that?
Good question. What are you using? Blockchain.com?
No, I use the company that I work with. They have something called Kaboo, which is it's 90% cold, but it is like a digital wallet. But I could move it into Coinbase. I could move it into like some kind of, I know there's physical cold wallets, but listen, my mom had a story from years back. She hid opals and jewelry, and we found it 5 years later in a sleeping bag. But I would hate to like lose what I'm mining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Okay, so we have a good write-up on this that Brandon actually put together at swanbitcoin.com/wallets. I think it just lays out all the options and talks about when it's a good idea for you to take control of your private keys, etc. Talks about hardware wallets, like you're talking about here. Talks about software wallets as well and options. And it also talks about these multi-sig services, which means that you're using more than one hardware wallets. You're using you have three keys essentially that are required. There are three keys, but it requires two of them to spend. For instance, it's called a 2 of 3 multisig. This provides redundancy, and there are services out there that make this super easy, like Casa and Unchained Capital. Casa, for instance, is $10 a month for a 2 of 3 multisig, and it's super easy to use with their app. And the cool thing about this is that, like I said, it's redundancy. You can put one of your hardware wallets in a safety deposit box. You can put another one in a different safety deposit box or a safe in your house. And you could have them geographically distributed. So this is really good, like high quality, deep cold storage, which is what I recommend. So I have this set up with Casa. Yeah, so I have a Casa wallet set up, and I just accumulate Bitcoin into that. I don't spend it ever. Not right now anyway. Don't have plans to for a while. I'm just accumulating it, right? Like Brandon said, as a savings account. So yeah, check out that swanbitcoin.com/wallets article. I think that's some good suggestions.
One more quick question, and I don't spend mine either. I'd rather just leave it sit there. I would hate to be crying if I went and sold it and then it doubled or tripled. But is there any specific cards where you can push Bitcoin to and use for like purchases? Mainly, I want that more from like proof of concept. It's not like I really want to spend my Bitcoin, but I've been looking around at some of the services like CoinZoom. Overseas, there's cards like WireX and stuff like that. But what are some of the established, like credible companies where they don't gouge you on fees?
Yeah, I mean, why do you want to spend Bitcoin? I mean, every time that you
I guess that
there's it's a taxable event. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I really want to. I mean, I was just kind of wondering, but
yeah, I mean, the way the tax situation is set up in the United States right now, it's taxed as a commodity, it's as an asset. So it's short-term capital gains if you've held it for less than a year, which is, you know, for most people at your income tax rate, or at 15% for long-term capital gains if you've held it for more than a year. So I mean, you've got to track that and pay that for every time that you convert your Bitcoin into dollars,
okay.
every time you buy something for it, every time you buy Ethereum or something like that with it. Those are all taxable events. So it becomes a kind of a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not eventually.
I'll just hold it in mind more.
Yes. Sorry. But
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. Eventually, it'll be more able to use as a medium of exchange.
Do you have anything on your website that talks about like kind of in the future? Because, you know, like I have an accountant and people that advise me, but a lot of them aren't too familiar with, you know, crypto. But is there any helpful articles on your site about, you know, taxes or how to kind of like structure it in the future so you don't get gouged on, you know, taxes?
We don't have anything on our site, but there's some good stuff out there. I would recommend looking, just like, Brandon, do you have anywhere to point in particular, like tax friendly or Bitcoin friendly tax people?
I would ask Preston Byrne. I think he's probably the one I would trust most in the legal space. You can find him on Twitter. I'm pretty sure he's on Clubhouse as well. Pictures of a marmot.
Right. Okay, cool.
Funny.
Also Jeff Van Drew is another
Jeff Van Drew. Okay, awesome. And I'll check out
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next up. Let's see, in Canada. And then we have, I see you, Idris, David, another two Davids, and Julie. Hang tight. We're going to try to get through these questions. All right.
And in the meantime, folks, if you know anyone who might have questions about Bitcoin or who might benefit from learning, you can use the plus sign down at the bottom to ping them so they can join the room. And then real quick, if anyone is interested in learning more about Bitcoin, you can check out any one of our profiles. We're giving away a book called Inventing Bitcoin. It's just swanbitcoin.com/free book. And you can find that in our profiles.
Hi, guys.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Hi, how's it going?
It's going all right. So I'm not a Bitcoin beginner. I guess I can join the room. But one thing I wanted to say is that I think I'm shocked that the altcoin and Ethereum slander. I was like, but I think one thing I wanted to say and get you guys' opinion on this is I think oftentimes cryptocurrency is talked as like an asset that can never depreciate. But currently we're in like a bubble, right? A bull market. And historically it crashes and people lose all their money. So I just wonder in terms of conveying the message, like why you guys are talking about it as like asset when it's not a guaranteed value.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin is the best performing asset in the world over the past decade. So over the long term,
long term for sure.
Right. There are people who have lost 99% of their money compared to Bitcoin, even more on a lot of these altcoins because they're projects that are tons of hype and marketing. So that's why we're really like Swan Bitcoin is Bitcoin only. We're really conservative in that regard. We really think that it's just like the only way to really approach this right now with any reason, unless you want to trade and gamble, like that's totally reasonable. People love to do that, and there are people out there, there are traders out there that can make it happen, but they're professionals. This is a 24/7 365 market. They're dedicated to it full time. So if you're gonna, if you have a full-time job or whatever and it's not trading, you're not going to be able to beat these guys doing it an hour a day. You're going to drive yourself crazy, like up at night. I did this for like 6 weeks and in 2017, and it just was not worth it. Then I had to do all the tax stuff. It's just, it's enticing to try to trade all this stuff, but it's just not worth it, in my opinion. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. That, nothing is guaranteed, but Bitcoin does have an extremely, positive history. All the signs point to the continuation of this, process over the next 5 or 10 years. I think we're still really early in the adoption. There's tons of value here and tons of upside left.
Mm-hmm. The one other question I had, and because you talked about Ethereum and altcoins a bit, so one thing I think about a lot is the utility of Bitcoin, right? It's kind of like, gold. And I guess my question to you guys is, in terms of, long-term utility, do you really think that Bitcoin has any over Ethereum or like newer third ledger technologies like Hedera or Algorand or Polkadot or Cosmos or whatever?
100%. Really appreciate this question. And we're going to answer it, and then we're just going to try to keep things moving along.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
So yeah, this is a great question. Bitcoin's utility. Bitcoin is growing and scaling and adding utility all the time. The main utility for Bitcoin right now is as a monetary asset, alternative monetary asset to fiat money, the US dollar and every other money that's run by a government. It's a decentralized, alternative decentralized money. That is massive utility in and of itself. Bitcoin is adding utility on top of this base layer, this base monetary asset, and scaling in the same way the internet did, by adding second and third layers on top of this base protocol. So if you've heard of TCP/IP, for instance, this is the main protocol stack, the main two protocols that run the internet, and they're stacked on top of each other. Right now, we have this base layer called Bitcoin, and we have a second layer that has been emerged over the past few years and is quickly developing and lots of exciting stuff happening, called the Lightning Network. That is a second layer on top of Bitcoin that allows you to transfer Bitcoin immediately, instantly, for very, very low cost. And it's kind of the payments layer, or the layer that will allow us to build a lot of other usability on top of it. So there's basically a lot of the DeFi stuff that's happening on Ethereum is being built on Bitcoin right now, and the fact that it's being built on a much better stable money than Ethereum, a better base layer, makes me a lot more confident that it'll be adopted more widely and trusted more widely in the future. So we're seeing these kind of applications being built on top of Bitcoin, and it's scaling that way. Bitcoin has the best developers in the world, some of the smartest people in the world working on it. And certainly in the cryptocurrency space, the best of the best are working on Bitcoin, because it's the project that is clearly leading, and so people are drawn to it.
Hey Brady,
looks
like he left.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know I was going to say he left before getting the question answered. I don't think he.
I moved in Canada back down to the.
Okay.
Because I wanted to. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we kind of keep things going along here. Okay, so let's bring in David Gutierrez. And then Idris, you're on deck, and then Julie. We're going to try to keep these things moving and keep them to 3 to 5 minutes if we can. Hi, David.
What's going on, David?
What I would like to know is how to educate people. I actually been in the space since 2016, and I also work as a software developer, so I know that the idea is to start growing my Bitcoin portfolio in order to catch up from this money devaluation and everything that's going on right now, and everything that the government are doing. They don't get in control of my economics. So, but how do I do this in the people around me, people that surrounds me? How can I teach them how to do it as well?
So, David,
good question.
If you don't mind, I'll start us off. That's a difficult question, and that's kind of what we do at Swan, right? We try to do our best to educate. The best advice that I've ever gotten in terms of how to do this, is to really know your audience, to look at the people that you're talking to and try to find a way that try to explain it to them in a way that will make sense, right? If you don't mind, I took a look at your profile. Is that a Venezuelan flag you've got there? David, are you from Venezuela, if you don't mind me asking?
No, from Colombia.
Ah, Colombia.
Really close to.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. But
Really next to
but basically,
Venezuela.
like, you know, if you're talking to someone who you know, might be from a country where the currency is devaluing really quickly, like that's an easy way to talk about it, you know, or someone who has gone through a diaspora and has had to pick up and leave, you know, their home country in the middle of the night and with nothing, you know, and leave all their wealth behind. You know, with Bitcoin, you don't have to do that. So, you know, I think looking for a way that really resonates with the person, you know, making the education as personal as you can, I think that's a great place to start. If you're looking for individual resources, we can also definitely help you out there. Just, you know, shoot us a message.
We actually put together a page for this of resources at swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. So everyone who's on here and looking for more resources, that's a really good page to start and kind of jump off into podcasts and videos and articles and books, and including the free book that we have called Inventing Bitcoin by our co-founder, Jan Pritzker. It's a great book, and you can give that away for free to anybody. Brekkie, do we have a Spanish version? I don't think we have it up on the Google Drive yet, but we do. Jan does have a Spanish translation. Is that right?
That is correct, and we're giving that away too. So if you want, you can shoot me a message on Twitter and remind me, and I'll be able to get you that copy that you can give away if you're interested.
That's great. Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks so much, David. All right. Moving on to Idris, then Julie is up next, then Wook, and then Elgin. Thanks for being in the queue. We will try to move through these so we can get to everybody's questions. All right, Idris, welcome to the stage, man. What's up?
Hey guys, this is Idris. Just want to say thank you guys for hosting this room. Just a quick question for me. So I'm still a novice when it comes to investing in Bitcoin. I'm learning as much as I can and only been in the space for maybe about a couple months now. I went ahead and invested a little bit in Bitcoin myself, and you know, I definitely see the potential in the future inside of Bitcoin. But I wanted to ask you guys, in terms of, because what I do is I buy Bitcoin off the exchange. And then once I get a decent amount, I go ahead and transfer it out to my cold wallet. But I wanted to ask you guys, I'm a firm believer of holding and just kind of waiting. And I'm really in this for the long-term plan. What advice do you guys have for those like me who is not in this sort of short term, who's kind of holding for as long as possible? What do you recommend, or what do you suggest for me to do in the meantime while I'm holding? You know, what I should be continuing to learn about, you know, what I should keep my eyes on while, you know, waiting this out for the long term?
Yeah, great question, man. Brandon, do you look like you were flashing there? You want to take a stab at this one?
Oh, I was flashing because like you said, he buys and then he brings to the cold storage. But I'll definitely take a stab at this one. So if I was you, I would be. I'll take it two angles. One, from a personal standpoint, we have this opportunity that if Bitcoin is what we think it is, it's going to be worth a lot more money in the future than it is now. And so if we take that premise as true, what I would be working on is trying to find a way for you to increase your personal income each month and also simultaneously decrease what you spend each month. So essentially increase your surplus of what you can invest each month, which allows you to buy more Bitcoin. And so I would start with that. From a Bitcoin standpoint, the reality is that Clubhouse has become a fantastic tool to have real-time discussion. I find it to be the fastest way for people to learn is coming and asking questions. I would also say jump on Twitter as well. There's a tremendous amount of debate going on there. I'll keep it at high level, and if either Brady or Becky want to jump in.
Yeah, sure. You know, like Brandon said, like I think like the coolest thing about Bitcoin, you know, is that we believe it to be this long-term kind of savings technology, at least for now in this process of monetization, right? And so the beauty of that is, you know, you can go on living your life and trying to create value and doing the things that, you know, either, you know, are lucrative or something that you're passionate about. So, you know, definitely echo that. And then, you know, I would urge you cautiously to go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And I say cautiously because it's addictive and there's so much to learn. You know, you can kind of go down I don't know, where do you even start, man? You know, if you haven't gone through the pantheon of Bitcoin literature, there's a ton of books I would recommend, like the Bitcoin Standard and Inventing Bitcoin and 21 Lessons by Gigi. There's the writings of people like Robert Breedlove and Brandon here on stage too. If you want to even learn see what other Bitcoiners are up to, Brady has an incredible podcast. That's how I first found out about Brady. It's called Citizen Bitcoin. There's just so much going on in the Bitcoin space and so much that you can learn about that, if you're as obsessed as we are, there's no shortage of things to read, videos to watch, all that kind of stuff. So, if you're looking for something specific, feel free to DM us and we're happy to share resources and, too many to share on stage right now, if you know what I mean.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm definitely, I wrote down everything that you recommended, so I'll be checking those out.
For sure, man. Shoot us a DM. I've got lists upon lists upon lists of stuff to share, so I'm sure that goes for Brandon and Brady too.
Oh yeah, there's so much stuff out there.
Idris, how did you get hair that looks so cool?
Man, just like Bitcoin, I'm in it for the long term, just lots of growth, man.
Low time preference. Awesome, man. Yeah, and just again, as a less overwhelming kind of jumping off point, swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse is a great way to kind of get started. Man, once you just kind of dive into those few things, it'll just lead off, like Brady said, into a rabbit hole. There's a whole economics kind of branch of the rabbit hole that's fascinating. All the technology stuff, obviously. Just learning what the dollar is, what money really is, and all the history of the dollar, and how fiat money has really affected our world and led to a lot of largely responsible for the wealth inequality that we see. And we, have essentially one of the links in that page, on that page, swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse is to a website called WTFhappened in1971.com. So what the fuck happened in 1971.com? And it's just a series of graphs, and you'll see in the early 70s, all these inflection points and all kinds of things. One of them is productivity was rising along with wages in lockstep for decades in the United States. And in early 1970s, wages flatlined, relative actual real wages flatlined. Productivity continued up at the same pace. So we are literally not being compensated for our increased productivity, for the time that we are putting in. We're literally working far more hours for less money than we would have otherwise. And that's all because we went off of the gold standard and money became fiat, which means by decree in Latin. And so it's controlled by a small number of people. And they can decide to print more money and therefore debase the currency or decrease the value, the purchasing power of that money. And that's happened many, many times around the world. And we're seeing it happen now to the US dollar, which has been the most stable currency as the world reserve currency for the past 50 plus years. But we're starting to actually see that happen with the dollar, which is concerning, and why a lot of big investors and corporations and even governments are turning to Bitcoin as a hedge against that. So that website, WTF happened in 1971, is kind of a jumping off point into the what is money and what, the branch of the rabbit hole. All right, so that was a bit of a tangent, but I think an important one. Thanks for coming up, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Got 6 hand raisers in the queue right now. Thanks everyone for being patient. I think I said Julie was next, so let's bring Julie up.
Hi guys, thanks for hosting this room. I've come across, or I've been to other rooms with Corey and a few of you folks, and so I finally signed up for Swan Bitcoin a couple weeks ago. So thanks for that. So my question is it, and it's kind of a compound question, is it too late to start mining Bitcoin, to start getting all the equipment and start doing that? If it's not too late, do you have a good resource that you could point to that just walks through that? And as far as equipment goes and the space for it, is having like a private office at a WeWork, for example, would that be enough utility to host the machinery?
Hey, Julie. So there's a couple things to consider here. At the moment, and probably for most of the foreseeable future, we'll see though, Bitcoin mining is kind of a industrial process. The first thing you have to know is the cost of your electricity. If it's free or extremely cheap, then maybe it's something to consider. And by cheap, I mean like in the less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour. And just for comparison, I'm in LA, and LA does have high energy costs, but home energy here is probably 17 to 19 cents per kilowatt hour. So you really need industrial rates, and you need to be very, very low, if not next to nothing. So that's the first thing. The second thing, especially if it was in a WeWork, mining rigs are extremely loud. So you might piss off all the other people in the office just by having it. So that's something else to consider. And then finally, mining it's kind of something where you need to think of it as a business. Hobby mining is kind of those days are kind of over. Now that being said, if you live somewhere like Canada or somewhere where it's very, very cold, there are people who are using miners mining at a loss, but they use the heat to heat their homes, things like that. Like there are ways to do it, and some people will actually mine in order to get KYC free Bitcoin that you didn't have to submit your ID for, that kind of thing. And for some people in that case, it actually makes sense. They don't care that they're mining at a loss because they'll pay the premium in order to get KYC free Bitcoin. But I would say if you're new to Bitcoin, relatively speaking, and you're just like, whoa, mining, this is really cool. I think everyone who gets into Bitcoin goes through that kind of moment, myself included. I mined altcoins for a little bit back in the day, which was not profitable either. So the thing to just think about is it's not something to undertake lightly. I wouldn't say don't do it because I don't know what your situation is, but there's just a lot to consider.
Cool. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
And Julie, one last thing about mining, and for anyone listening, it sounds attractive, like you just plug in some machines and out pops money. But the reality is that it's so competitive that the mined coins that the miners produce, their expenses are pretty much equal to their revenue. And so almost all miners say, if I would have just invested that money that I bought mining machines, if I would have just bought Bitcoin with it, I would be ahead right now. And so for anyone getting involved, it's way smarter, way safer to just buy the asset itself.
That's super helpful. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. All right. Who's next here? I think Wook is up next. Let me see. All right. Wook is up next. Then we'll go with Elgin, Resh, and KP in that order. Thanks, everyone, for being patient in the queue. I want to get to everybody's questions. And thanks, everyone, for raising your hand and coming up and asking questions. That's awesome. I appreciate your curiosity. Wook Chewy, you are a familiar face. What's going on?
Yo, what's up? Triple B, Brady, Brandon.
We're the Burrs. What do you got for us, Wook? We got to let you win, right?
Yeah. I just got a couple of questions. Well, it's just one question, really. I just want to dig deep. We're talking about this SHA-256 encryption algorithm. I've done some work in data science and some things with military-grade encryption tech, with communications and things like that. I'm curious, how do we know that Satoshi or this group of people who created Bitcoin, whatever we want to call that, how do we know that they do not have some sort of a backdoor in the protocol that's hidden in order to retake control of the network and wallets and things like that? How do we know that the money is safe inside of this?
Good question, man. Very good question. And the answer is because Bitcoin is completely open source. It's an open source project. So you can go and audit the code yourself on GitHub. And it has been done by hundreds and thousands of developers at this point all around the world. A lot of them are some of the best developers and minds in the world. And they're attracted to working on Bitcoin because it's a really hard problem. There's lots of, very difficult, problems to solve in terms of how to approach this thing. And it's super high stakes, $700 billion market cap or $600 billion, whatever it is right now. So there's a ton at stake. So it attracts people who want to really challenge themselves with a lot at stake. And so, like I said, some of the brightest minds in the world, completely open source. It's been audited, like I said, by thousands of people. And there's no no backdoor or anything like that for the original developer, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Even the auditor argument is a good one, Brady. But I like the honeypot argument better, to be honest. Like, if you think about how much money, how much value is locked up in Bitcoin, it's been probably the biggest honeypot of all time for a very long time. SHA-256 is used not only by Bitcoin, but by, people all over the world. So can we ever know? I don't know, but I do think that, this many years in, I think somebody would have found that backdoor by now. The incentive is there. It's been there for a long time. So I think that's the best we can do. Brady, you there?
I was talking. Sorry, I was on mute. I was just saying, the Bitcoin. Hold on one second. Hey, Elgin, just 1 second, man. I was just saying the Bitcoin network is the most secure computer network in history because of the fact that it's completely open source, and like Brecky said, it's the biggest honeypot. Like, if you're a hacker, you want to try to take this network down because you're gonna make yourself filthy rich. So it hasn't happened in 12 years, and it's very secure at this point. Elgin, welcome up, man. What can we answer for you?
Hey, how's it going, guys? So I just have like a quick question about like the halving and the last Bitcoin cycle. So I was fortunate enough to get into Bitcoin of like 2 years ago. I was working for Facebook, and there was like the whole Libra thing or whatever, and I got into cryptocurrency, and I started realizing these cycles and how like volatile cryptocurrency is. And basically, I was fortunate enough to get in and started dollar cost averaging when March hit. And I'm like a huge fan of like Raoul Pal and Michael Saylor or whatever. And I was just wondering if you guys think, like, since these huge hedge funds and these huge adoption is in, like Cash App is in, and like all these people are buying Bitcoin, like, will we see these 30% drops? And like, do you guys see like Bitcoin like dropping like by the end of this year? Because my whole plan is to really accumulate as much cryptocurrency like I've been doing, like just dollar cost averaging, and then kind of getting out at the peak. And then once Bitcoin kind of like has this correction and pulls back, is, to accumulate more Bitcoin. And to, I think Bitcoin is a huge thing. I like heard you guys talking about the 1971 standard. Like, I believe that Bitcoin is going to be this huge thing in the future. But do you guys think like the cycle is going to play out like the last cycle, like the last half and the last few halvings have, like these huge corrections?
I'll go quickly on this, and then Brandon or Becky can add on to it. First of all, like, we obviously can't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of factors at play in determining the price in the market. There's just a lot going on. So it's impossible to predict future price action based on past performance. That said, there are a lot of people who try to do that, obviously. And there are predictions out there that you can take a look at. We have been through 2 cycles now that have looked relatively similar, that have sort of happened, started soon after the halving, within 6 months or 9 months after a halving event. And for anybody listening who doesn't know what a halving event is, quickly, the supply of Bitcoin is cut in half. The new supply of Bitcoin that comes onto the market, the actual new coins, is cut in half every 4 years. So at first it was 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes or so, and then 25 every 10 minutes or so, then 12 and a half every 10 minutes or so. And so that decreases the rate, the inflation rate essentially of Bitcoin. And right now we're at about a 1.8% inflation rate, which is roughly equal to gold. In the next halving, we'll have the lowest inflation of any monetary asset in the history of humanity. A realm that we've never seen before. So that's what the halving is. That has tended to seem, in at least the last 2 times, to kind of kick off a bull run like this. Like you mentioned, something I've been talking about a lot lately is that these bigger players are coming in. Like MicroStrategy is a Fortune 500 company, traded on New York Stock Exchange, public company, and they bought over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin they moved their corporate treasury to a Bitcoin standard. I think they bought it's like over 50,000 Bitcoin or something. So they took that Bitcoin and they moved it into cold storage, and they have no plans of selling it for quite some time. So this idea of buying and holding, or what we call hodling in Bitcoin world, is really taking off, I guess, being understood by a larger number of people, more and more people. So we're seeing people buy and hold their coins. There are 500,000 less coins available in the liquid tradable markets right now than there were, like 9 months ago, because so many are being taken off the market. That has an even greater effect on the increasing scarcity of available Bitcoin than the halving even. So I expect, just based on those fundamental kind of trends that we're seeing, that we'll see a massive price increase in the next 12 to 18 months, just based on lack of supply and increased demand, basic economics. That's my particular view. As far as trying to time the market and like sell out at the top, just like you're dollar cost averaging in, you could dollar cost average out at the top. It's impossible to time the market. I would suggest only doing that with part of your Bitcoin stash. You decide what you're comfortable with. But like I said, you can get wrecked like trying to do this. People will sell some Bitcoin and say they're going to buy in at a lower price, and then it just keeps going up and they never get down to that target price they had in mind, and then they're buying back in at twice what they sold. So just be careful. I would set aside a good portion and just like don't touch it. Don't try to time the market with it. And if you want to do it with some of your Bitcoin, kind of average out as well, like over a period of months. So you're gonna reducing that volatility risk. Yeah.
Hey, Elgin, I would also add that Bitcoin is undergoing a process of monetization, right? And that in order to go, like some people might call us crazy, but I personally think we're going to see $1 million Bitcoin in the next, I don't know, sometime in my lifetime, maybe the next 5-10 years, who knows? But that being said, like there's no way to get to that level without there being volatility. Will we reach eventually a point where the demand and the knowledge asymmetry kind of goes away and the price levels? Yes, that will happen. But in order to get there, there's going to be ups and downs. So that's personally why I recommend buying and holding and trying to stack sats that way and not trying to time the markets, and why a lot of others do the same. So I think it's kind of folly to expect a smooth ride up. And yeah, that's all I got on that.
I totally agree with both the other BRs up here. The only thing I would add is that for you, Elgin, and everyone else, anytime you sell Bitcoin, that's considered a taxable event in the US under the IRS guideline. And so let's say you bought Bitcoin for $100 and you sold it for $200. You have to pay capital gains tax on that $100. And so not only do you have to beat the market on that trade, which is extremely hard, but you also have to beat the tax that you're going to pay on any potential gains. And so from that standpoint, I would say the risk reward for trying to time the market is not in your favor. And so I would recommend against it.
Okay, thank you guys. Because honestly, I've just been dollar cost averaging, like I said, and that's been working out for me like quite a bit. So I haven't like really sold anything. I've just been watching it go up and down, and I'm like used to the ride now. It's like a roller coaster, It's not
it is.
A regular stock, yeah. So I'm like to the ride, and like a lot of my friends, they aren't really used to it. I get calls and phone calls and stuff every day about it.
Mm-hmm. People worried.
Yeah. So, but I guess for now, yeah, I just keep maintaining the same thing, and I just got on this app today, so I'm going to keep getting on these groups and keep talking about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I appreciate you guys helping me out today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you as well. You're doing the right thing. That's what we do at Swan. That's the product that we launched with, and is dollar cost averaging. So it's really simple to set up. You just connect your bank account, and we automatically pull money from your bank account. So think about it like you have a percentage of your paycheck that you want to put into savings via Bitcoin. It's 10% or something of your paycheck every month. You just connect your bank account. You put that amount in. Say it's $200 or $400 or whatever, and we just automatically buy the Bitcoin for you, and it accumulates in your account. You don't have to do anything. You're just gonna watch your Bitcoin stash increase over time. And that's the way to do it. You smooth out the volatility risk. If you would have dollar cost averaged through the 2017 bull run, starting at early 2017 all the way through and toward the end of the year when it peaked, your cost basis, meaning the average price you would have paid for Bitcoin, would have been like around $5,000, and the price peaked at $20,000 that year. So you're gonna then it when it sold off 80%, the low was like 3,800 or something. So you were still only $1,200 below at the very lowest point in the bear market, which didn't last for that long. Only $1,200 below in your average purchasing price, and then you're also buying all the way down, so you're getting all of those low. So it's just with a volatile asset like this that you expect to do well in the long term. Dollar cost averaging is the by far best strategy. Just buying every week, every month, or whatever. So you're doing the right thing.
All right, thank you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. All right, let's see who's up next. Resh, thanks for your patience. KP still hanging out there in the queue. Appreciate you. And Shane, I see you there. All right, thanks for coming up. How's it going?
Hi guys, thanks for doing this. I have a quick question. So I've been using the Trezor cold storage wallet for like a few years now. Do you guys recommend like a new one, like a more secure?
If you want to go more secure than a individual hardware wallet, you can get a multi-signature setup, which is more than just one hardware wallet. So in the most basic multi-signature wallet, you'd have 2 hardware wallets or 3 hardware wallets, and you need 2 of them to spend your Bitcoin. The easiest way to set something up like this is at Casa. Their website is keys.casa, like a home for your keys.
Mm-hmm.
It's $10 a month, and they will. It's super simple to set up, and then you can have 2 devices, one Trezor and one Ledger, or they also support Cold Card, which is I think one of the better hardware wallets out there. So yeah, Trezor has had some issues in the past, I guess. I mean, these wallets can be compromised if somebody gets physical access to them and has some are relatively computer savvy. There's hacks that have been out there, but those have been shored up in relatively quick time, and that's why it's good to sort of distribute just don't put all your eggs in one basket, and that's why I like Casa.
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you spell it again?
Yeah. Yep. It's Casa, like house in Spanish, or like home in Spanish. KEYS, so for your keys, and then .casa, so it's like a home for your keys.
Okay.
This is a good time to remind everyone. So we have a Telegram group. It's a companion group basically for this. It's t.me/Bitcoin Clubhouse. And what we'll often do is drop links and some of the things we're talking about in that chat. So I can put that link in there right now for anyone who's interested.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying I should pretty much put some of them in another wallet, right? In this one?
I mean, I think Trezors are fine. Like, they're pretty good. I mean, it depends how much Bitcoin you have, and don't tell us on here. If it's a significant amount, it's your nest egg, that kind of thing. I would definitely suggest looking into a multi-sig setup, or maybe dividing between a few hardware wallets so it's not all in one, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
You were asking about the next step up. That would be the next step up. So you can check out Casa and multi-sig stuff.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the question. Thanks for coming up here. All right. Next up. Thanks everyone for hanging out. KP, you're coming up, and then Steven, you're on deck.
Hello.
Hey KP, what's up?
Hey man, really appreciate you. I just signed up for you guys a couple of weeks ago and started
nice. Love to hear it.
The dollar cost averaging. Wonderful process, wonderful idea. So I got 3 quick questions. 2 of them was formed just in all the talking that you guys did. What does KYC mean? It's going to be pretty simple. The next one is you mentioned your Telegram group. So if you could give that again, because I wasn't in position to write it down. And that formed from just being waiting to get on stage. My true questions is, I know you guys are really transparent. Everybody in the Bitcoin community that I've seen on Clubhouse mentions Swan Bitcoin. And so I'm curious, could you be transparent on how your business model works? How do you make money? And then two, do you see any innovation on the horizon in regards to blockchain? Thank you.
Oh, good questions. All right, so we'll knock out the first two. The Telegram group, I think this the best, like, since we made this page to make this easy. All of this stuff is in one place at swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. Just go there. There's a page there. It has the Telegram group, has a bunch of other stuff like the wallets article and other stuff that we mentioned here a lot. The free book, the link is on there. So just one URL you need to go to, swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. You'll see all those resources there. KYC is Know Your Customer. It stands for Know Your Customer. It's a banking regulation in the United States, and it requires personal information to be gathered to open a bank account. And so with Swan, you're actually opening a bank account in your name. And this is one of the differences between Swan and something, an exchange like Coinbase, where on Coinbase you're opening an account, but the Bitcoin that's in your Coinbase account is actually held legally by Coinbase in their bank account. With Swan, you're actually opening up a bank account in your own name legally. It's a trust account through a company called Prime Trust, who we partner with to provide banking services and custody services. And so you're opening a bank account for your Bitcoin. So that means we have to get some basic identifying information that's required to open any bank account in the United States under the Know Your Customer laws. So that's what that's about. And then, so I remember you had a question about advancements in blockchain, but what was your third question?
The business model, but you kind of explained it which was a great job by putting KYC into conjunction. So yeah, just being a little bit more under, like, how do you make your money? But I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But if you feel like going more in depth, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon, I'm going to throw the advancement in blockchain question to you, but I'll just real quick say we make money like most other exchanges by charging fees for the service we're providing. We have the lowest fees in the industry for auto stacking and the service we're providing. I mean, without going to like professional trading platforms. So if you're buying $200 a month or more in Bitcoin, you get a 0.99% fee, so just less than 1% fees on your purchases, your Bitcoin purchases. You can pay those fees annually to get that 0.99% rate. If you pay them as you go, it's like 1.49%.
I did go for the annual.
There you go. So that's how you get the lowest fees in the industry for this kind of a service. And that's the reason we can have the lowest fees, because we're focused on Bitcoin only. We have very low overhead. Like Coinbase has to employ, tens of dozens of engineers and hundreds of support people, I'm guessing, to take care of all of these, alternative coins that they list on their exchange. We're just laser focused on Bitcoin and education, and so we're on a much leaner operation, and we can provide those lower fees. We think we put together a really compelling product for people who just want to buy Bitcoin and stack it. Brandon, you want to take the question about advances in blockchain?
Real quick, though, before we do that, in terms of our business model, though, it's essentially all fees. It's the only place that we're collecting money. There's no hidden fees, nothing like that. So we get all our money through our fees. Yeah, and we don't have withdrawal fees, which is something that really sets Swan apart as well. So when you withdraw, we really encourage that. And that may not last forever because on-chain fees tend to spike up and get high, and we may not be able to afford to do that forever. But we will do it for as long as we can, and we will subsidize it as much as we can because we want people to take control of their keys when they're ready to do that. It's just, we think, a best practice when people are comfortable with that. So that's another thing that kind of sets us apart.
Not your keys, not your Bitcoin.
That's right.
Nailed it, KP. Nailed it. Okay, and one last thing about our business model. we sell the best product ever, which is Bitcoin. And so all we have to do is take a small fee on that and make our business work. And our marketing strategy is simply to educate people about Bitcoin. And the reason is because when people learn about Bitcoin, turns out they end up wanting to buy some. And so that's sort of like the barrier to Bitcoin right now, is people are trying to figure out what this thing is. We haven't seen a new money in thousands of years. And so it's kind of a weird thing for humans to try to grapple with. And so by educating, it also builds our business. In terms of the blockchain question, this is a really good question. And for beginners, I know how challenging it is to navigate this water. There's 9,000 some cryptocurrencies. Everybody has flashy marketing. It's kind of a quagmire to get through. But here's sort of the high level view. The blockchain sort of gets this hype. It's sort of like the poster child for the whole industry. But that's a mistake. Bitcoin's actually more of like a Franken technology. Roughly 5 different technologies were all bolted on together to create this unique balance. And that unique balance creates a network that then provides all these unique things, such as censorship resistance, and you don't need to trust your counterparties, etc. And what ended up happening is people pulled out the blockchain and said, oh man, we have this new thing, a blockchain, and that can do everything that Bitcoin can do simply by using a blockchain. But that's just not true. And so the mistake is that thinking Bitcoin's this general purpose technology for anything. And here's why that's not true. So in order to create a blockchain that provides the things that Bitcoin has, you have to have a decentralized ledger, meaning millions of computers all around the world, they all keep track of the ledger, which is essentially just who owns what. And so by having that decentralized ledger, that enables all those properties. However, that's super duper inefficient, right? It's way easier if you just use a single computer, right? And so decentralization is expensive. And so under that guise, you want to think about what use cases are willing to pay that extremely high cost of decentralization. And so far, what we know is that money is a good use case, because when humans are controlling the money, they end up getting greedy or coerced, and then they screw up the money for their own personal gain. And that's just a historical fact going back as far as we have history. The kings and queens would debase the currency, or they'd fund a war and they'd cheat in some capacity. And so Bitcoin essentially removes money out of the hands of centralized parties, typically governments, and it gives it to the people. And so, again, what is the blockchain for? Something that is willing to pay that high cost. And I don't see many use cases. It might just be money. However, there might be something long-term in the future. However, it's very hard to assume. We're very, very early in this thing. And what needs to happen first is we need to prove it out and give money back to the people, just like we took religion out of the government's hands. Let's give it back to the people. And then we can talk about that. But that's a long ways in the future.
Thank you for answering my question. I didn't mean to hog up the stage. And this was probably something a little bit more advanced than beginners, because I would love to hear a conversation on those 5 technologies you said make up the Bitcoin for the blockchain. And then also how being decentralized, having a decentralized ledger is one of the keys, because the incentive is for all those people and those computers mining is a percentage of the whatever it is. If you're doing a different technology, what's the incentive?
Hey, David. So that conversation is definitely a fun conversation, but it is a very long conversation. Actually, it's probably about a 2-hour conversation. And the reason why I know it's about 2 hours is because that's about how long it takes to read the book Inventing Bitcoin. And I promise you, if you read Inventing Bitcoin, you will have all of those questions answered. And if you want that book, you can go to one of our profiles. You can find the link there, or you can go to swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse and grab the link there to the free book. If you haven't read it, we've got we've got the book in PDF. We've got it in Kindle format. We've got it in audiobook. Highly, highly recommended. I go back and read it probably twice a year just to refresh myself on how Bitcoin works. It'll teach you literally all the tech that's involved in Bitcoin and why it's important. Like it's full of gems. So I'd highly recommend it.
And it does it in like a super accessible way. Like Brecky said, it's like a 2 or 3 hour read, and it's just like plain English, and you will understand how the system works. So it's a great book.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yes. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate you very much. All right, we've got some hand raisers still here. I'd love to see everybody raising your hand. Appreciate everyone. Let's see. Clubhouse doesn't keep these in order in which they appeared, which is a little frustrating. I'm going to recommend they do that. I think Ian was next, then Steven, then Nathan and Edward.
Yeah,
Get to you as well.
We should write it down. Also, I'm sorry, folks. Your arms must be tired having your hands up this long, huh? Huh? Terrible joke.
Yeah.
I'll walk
Thanks for
myself
being
out.
patient. Thanks for being patient. All right, here we go, Ian. Hey, Ian, what's up?
Hey, thanks for putting me on stage here. Not quite a beginner, but I did have a question that maybe someone, you guys caliber can answer and maybe just put some perspective on if it's possible. From a perspective of being money, do you see Bitcoin ever getting to the point where it won't be taxed for capital gains reasons so we can buy things with it? Or, it's just going to become a store of wealth and be digital gold forever? And maybe a spin-off question, do you think you guys are going to create like a card like Coinbase does and allow people to, pull from theirs, or you're strictly doing your keys, your Bitcoin, we don't want to tie into that?
Yeah, we're right now really just focused on saving Bitcoin and not spending it. So we're really a savings account, not a checking account for Bitcoin. And like we said, really in the United States, it's just doesn't make sense to use Bitcoin in everyday transactions right now. That's just kind of one, the stage of monetization process we're at, and two, like you mentioned, just the state of the way it's treated legally right now. So as far as so we won't be doing a card anytime soon, but it's possible. Who knows what will happen in the future? Things always change and we'll move with the market. There are countries that don't tax Bitcoin like this. For instance, Nigeria, Bitcoin I think it's the most widely used, the country where Bitcoin is most widely used. Something like 20 or 30% of people in Nigeria use Bitcoin on a regular basis for transactions and also for saving. And it's just because it's not taxed in any way at all. It's just treated like a currency in Nigeria. So, and there's other, countries like that around the world where it's not taxed. And there are Bitcoiners that are moving to those jurisdictions to build Bitcoin businesses. And one of the sort of forces on countries that do tax Bitcoin in a way like the United States does will be this sort of jurisdictional pressure. And so the United States has a pretty good track record of embracing new technologies, and it's worked out well for us. For instance, in the internet, it wasn't overregulated. It wasn't nationalized. It was allowed to, for the most part, develop in the free market. And so as a consequence, 30 years later, we have the 5 biggest companies in the world because the biggest innovation is the internet that we've seen in the last 30 years. So I think it's kind of similar for Bitcoin, which is sort of the internet of money. And it is going to be a massive industry, and it already is growing very quickly. So it'll be like advantageous for the United States to sort of change the way it's taxed eventually, because there'll be pressure from other countries that are not taxing Bitcoin that way and taking business basically away from the United States.
Brady, I'm going to take a more optimistic view and say that we don't know exactly how it'll play out. What I'm hoping for, though, is that we now have a few allies in the Senate, in Congress. People are coming around to Bitcoin, and people in high political places, I think, are realizing it. And so, we don't know how it will play out, but I think what Brady is talking about could potentially happen sooner than later. And who knows? Maybe we'll even see regulation come out that that changes it so that smaller transactions aren't treated as capital gains instances. I don't know. We'll see. But to kind of echo Brady, for the meantime, Bitcoin makes the most sense as a savings technology, at least from our POV.
Okay, great. Thank you guys. Appreciate the insight, and I'll check out Swan Bitcoin, of course.
For sure. One other thing,
Thank
also,
you,
Ian, if you're interested in using Bitcoin for payments, I would urge you to check out Lightning Strike. It's ln.strike. I use it all the time to buy things from merchants who accept Bitcoin and to support them. And basically what it does is it allows you to link your bank account and you spend dollars, but the merchant receives Bitcoin. So it's kind of an interesting way to be able to spend Bitcoin without incurring a capital gains instance.
That sounds interesting.
Strike.me, you can find the Strike app in your app store. It's cool. It's a solution to the tax problem. So it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. You have, like people who don't want to spend their Bitcoin, but merchants who want to accept Bitcoin. And this is a way to do it without tax implications. So basically Strike actually makes the Bitcoin payment for you and incurs the tax liabilities or whatever, and they handle all that, so you don't have to. All you're doing is spending dollars, but the merchant gets Bitcoin. So it's kind of like halfway there. It's a cool solution for merchants.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Let's see who's next. We have Steven, then Edward, you're on deck. Thanks for raising your hand, guys. All right, Steven, welcome. What's going on?
Thanks a lot for doing this. This is my first time speaking on Clubhouse, so thank you.
Awesome.
Two-part question. First of all, when you guys come into Canada, it looks like you're US only.
Yes, we are US only at the moment. We are starting to look at moving internationally. Canada is at the top of that list. It's not economical for us to accept, like, the way we're going to have to do it is a little different for international than we do it in the United States, just because of the way, like, the cost structure to, do international KYC, the know your customer stuff is more expensive. So we'll have to approach it in a different way, and we're figuring that out, starting to think about that. It's probably still a ways out for like publicly available, but we will be, doing this privately as a kind of a beta experiment. We usually ask people in our Telegram group, which is linked at swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. The Swan Bitcoin Telegram group will say, hey, we need some people to beta test this. So if you're interested in that, you can join that group and kind of keep an eye on it. Like I said, it's probably a ways away, but we are starting to think about it. Like I said, Canada's one of the countries that we're starting to think about.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely join that group. And a follow-up question to that, for someone who's, a very much beginner, and this kind of Swan idea seems like place to start, where would you suggest someone who doesn't want to get too deep into the Bitcoin space, but really believes that it's the future and want to start buying Bitcoin, how to start?
What are the northern states? Minnesota, Wisconsin? No, I'm just kidding. There's a great company called Bull Bitcoin that we recommend all the time. They're good friends of ours. I don't know if you know them, but I would check them out.
Also, ShakePay is also popular for Canadians. I think it's kind of like a super brain dead simple platform for smaller buys, where I think Bull Bitcoin is a little more sophisticated and probably an overall better platform, but either are good to start.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Steven. Any other questions?
No, that's all. Appreciate it.
That's it. Okay, awesome. All right.
Hey, Brady, let's do a quick reset of the room.
Go ahead.
So everybody, if you're new to the room, that we are from Swan Bitcoin, and we're doing Bitcoin for beginners, and we're taking all your questions, or as many as we can fit into this little event tonight. So thank you for joining us. If you or anyone you know is interested in Bitcoin or learning about Bitcoin, do us a favor and hit that plus sign down at the bottom, and you can ping them to enter the room. Also, if you are new to Bitcoin, we have a great page full of resources set up. You think you can find it in all of our profiles, but it is swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. It has a bunch of great links there, including the link to the free book that we've mentioned, Inventing Bitcoin, a link to the companion Telegram group that we have, where we will be dropping other info, and you can ask other people questions and ask people for invites for friends to Clubhouse, that sort of thing. And then finally, I had one more thing I was going to tell you about, and I've totally forgotten it. Give me half a second. This is me delaying. Where did I write it down? Oh, there it is. We're going to be doing this every Monday, and we'll be hosting some other rooms, some more advanced rooms as well. So if that interests you and you want to stay up to date on Bitcoin, do some more learning here on Clubhouse, either give us a follow or you can join our club, Cafe Bitcoin. It is an open club. Just request entrance and we'll let you in. And then every time we do one of these little groups, you'll get a notification. So back to the questions. Brady, who's next?
Great commercial, Breck.
All right. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Did you want my commercial voice? I didn't. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bitcoin for Beginners.
Brookie does great impressions in general, and I don't know, maybe we'll get one at some point tonight.
We'll see.
Okay, Edward. Edward is up next, and then I believe we have Kortik, and then Pamela, Preston, and Barris, I believe is how you say that. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Edward, come on down. How's it going?
Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Brandon, I really liked your explanation on the fly about cryptocurrencies. And I just wanted to compliment that we're talking about the cost of decentralization. But this is a cost inherent to distributed systems. However, throughout the history of the world, the cost of doing money has been orders of magnitude much larger than the cost of decentralization on Bitcoin. In that regard, I think that Bitcoin, among other things, is one of the most efficient ways to do money that our civilization has ever seen, probably the most efficient one. And another thing that I wanted to emphasize, that you mentioned it, but it seems that the room is for people that are newcomers. One of the things that newcomers should really get to understand, in my opinion, is that the difference between Bitcoin and other things is that every time there is a point of centralization with regards to money, whoever has that power abuses it in its own benefit. You said it just as much. But then the antidote of having a point of centralization is that everyone is a real participant in the network. So I really like you guys at the Swan exchange to provide the resources for the people to learn and do business and save periodically on Bitcoin. But we also had to do another thing, which is, in my opinion, like learning about cold storage, learning about what is the business of mining, maybe once in a while using a paper wallet, running a node that is something that allows you to run your own queries on the Bitcoin blockchain so that you see what's going on in terms of what is it that... and we also need to talk about things like, for example, the current problems and how Bitcoin keeps evolving, and perhaps let the newcomers know that this is in evolution. And for example, this year probably is the year of something called Taproot and those things. So just wanted to commend the work that you guys are doing and compliment, if I was able to, what Brandon said. I have an internet video, a YouTube video explaining the several elements put together in the Franken monster. Who said the Franken monster?
That was Brandon.
So you can guys send me a private message and I will give you the link, because it is not a public YouTube video.
Awesome.
Hey, Edward, thank you so much for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all that commentary. And for people who are listening, Edward is right. And how I would frame this is that Bitcoin, like, you can understand it and get your toes in by saying, okay, it's money. It's a different type of savings account, right? Just keep it simple and buy a little bit. And that's how most people start. However, just know that there is an incredible rabbit hole of learning, and you will see the world differently if you pursue Bitcoin deeper and deeper, because it is this new fundamental thing that sort of changes how humans interact with each other, because we can change the monetary system, which most people don't think about, but it's actually kind of a foundational protocol for how humans cooperate. And so, yeah, Edward, I really appreciate you kind of giving people a little lamp on the path.
Yes, thank you. And it's not only exactly what you were saying, that this is just the beginning, right? So this is like the times of 1990 or 1991, right before the internet became mainstream and huge. And there are still impediments, but I do remember, I mean, the people who understood the internet in 1991, 1992, 93, even 94, most of them became multimillionaires, okay? Because having actual knowledge when people didn't know anything was such a huge advantage that it is happening all over again. But just that I think that Bitcoin is every bit as transformative as the whole of the internet. As a matter of fact, I think that you guys were saying that the United States taxation is really bad with regards to Bitcoin, which obviously it is. And that currently the United States have the 6 largest companies in the world because they all went really, really hard on the internet. But come on, we also have to see that the United States is a different country today as it was 3 years ago. For example, the broadband access in the United States is particularly bad compared to its peers in the developed world. And I am not so sure, sorry, I'm not as optimistic as you guys are, that the United States is going to embrace the technology that is going to undermine the petrodollar, the instrument, the primary instrument that the United States has to exercise power all over the world. Like, for example, they got rid of the privacy in the Swiss banks because to plug into the financial network controlled by the petrodollar, they had to get rid of privacy and do know your customer, right? So, I think that to really benefit from this wave of innovation and transformations, we had to look outside of the United States. Keep a very close look, but fortunately, Bitcoin, because it is oblivious to countries, a country can abstain itself from the benefits of Bitcoin. It will continue to grow regardless. So,
I agree.
Edward, there's actually, I mean, I do think it could go either way. You know, like who knows how governments will react maybe when they realize that Bitcoin is undermining the dollar. But you know, there's another way to look at it, and that Bitcoin is actually, you know, Marty Bent talks a lot about this. I can't remember if it was Connor Brown or if it was Parker Lewis who wrote an article, you know, but basically that Bitcoin could become a national security issue in that if we are not mining Bitcoin, you know, it will be disadvantageous to the U.S. Marty talks about this a lot, and if anyone's actually interested in kind of going down the rabbit hole, we should talk about this more. But his name is Marty Bent. If you go to martysbent.com, there's a fantastic newsletter that's every single day. Highly recommend checking out. Another great resource, we have our own newsletter, and you don't have to be a customer to sign up for it. And we drop kind of knowledge bombs and great articles from each month, and I'd recommend people kind of get on that too. But, you know, it's safe to say that we don't know exactly how things are going to play out. But hopefully, you know, the brighter minds will prevail and see that, you know, it's better to embrace Bitcoin than get left behind.
Oh, yes. Brecky, when you were mentioning about mining outside of the United States represents a disadvantage, I totally agree with that, right? And just to make an example, all of those companies that make specialized chips for SHA-256, SHA-256 is the cryptographic hashing function at the base of proof of work in Bitcoin, for those that don't know. All of that business is currently about $10 billion, investments of capital of about $30-40 billion worth of investments. And that came out of nowhere, okay? And all of that is China. All of that is pushing forward the Chinese factories and the silicon manufacturing capabilities of China. And, other countries of the world are abstaining from it.
Yes. Edward, thanks so much for the commentary. Really appreciate it. We could talk all night, I can tell. But we have 5 people with their hands raised, and so we do need to move on. Thanks for your comments, Ben.
Brady, was that your dog?
Yeah. My puppy is chasing around my dog, my older dog, and he's not very happy about that. I'll address that situation here in a moment. So I'm going to bring somebody up. Let's see. Pamela, thank you for waiting. Come on up.
Okay, hi. My question is about a cold storage wallet. And like for a long time, I just thought, okay, I have my Bitcoin on cold storage wallet and, that's that. But then I started to, have some concerns about, well, what if something happens to that cold storage wallet company? And then like I recently was hearing Andreas Antonopoulos talking about that you can access your Bitcoin from like various wallets, and he was talking about the BIP39 passphrase and like tree of keys and things. So I guess my question really is, like, where is my Bitcoin once I put it on the cold storage wallet? So is it on blockchain? Like, is it on software? So if the company that I have my the cold storage wallet, if that company goes out of business, like they go bankrupt,
so
I can still access my Bitcoin?
100%. 100%. Easily, I'm not. It kind of depends, but basically, like I'll do the high level first of this. Your Bitcoin is always on the blockchain. The blockchain is essentially a decentralized ledger. Then you can almost think of it as like, an Excel spreadsheet that is copied, millions of times all over the world. So it never leaves that whatsoever. It's always there. The hardware wallet, what that does is it safeguards your private keys. It basically makes it so that only you can access those keys and keeps them safe. Now, when you set up the wallet, the hardware wallet, you should hopefully still have what you were just talking about, which is the mnemonic recovery phrase or seed phrase. And it's usually made up of 12 or 24 words. And sometimes, depending on the hardware wallet, you'll also have another word, which is the passphrase. It could be a word, or it could be a phrase, or a bunch of numbers. It could be a number of things. But basically, if you ever lose a hardware wallet, as long as you have the seed phrase, you'll always be able to access that Bitcoin.
Right. And my concern was more like, what happens if the company goes bankrupt? So
if the company goes bankrupt, it wouldn't necessarily affect your hardware wallet. It kind of depends on the wallet, right? Like sometimes they will do what's called a firmware update, like updating the software on updating the hardware of the wallet itself. But generally speaking,
hold on, Brick.
Yeah.
The answer is just no. It's not a problem. Like you should just move to a different hardware wallet, but you are in control of your keys. So the hardware wallet itself will continue to work. It's not dependent on the company to work. So you can plug it in and you can, send your Bitcoin to a different wallet, and you're good to go.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And the most important point here is to save that 12 or 24 word seed, because even if you lost the hardware wallet and the company went out of business, just safeguard those words and you can reboot your wallet in any other type of wallet that supports those 12 to 24 words, which is most wallets at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And people just buy this. Is there like a steel product? Like what that you? I know I've heard of the cold card, but you can just buy this steel product where you can just kind of like etch those 12 to 24 words in it. Like, what's the best thing to store your words in, or to write your words down on?
So there are products. Like Crypto Steel, I think, is one of them. There's several of these products where you can.
Did you say?
I think it's called. One of them is called Crypto Steel.
Okay.
Brandon? Do you remember the one that sponsors Stefan's podcast?
Yeah. What I would do, Pam, was I would Google right now Jameson Lop LOPP.
Brandon, I'll put that in the Telegram group.
Yeah, do that.
So Pamela, there's
like 20 of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's an article that compares all the best ones. If you're in our Telegram group, I can just drop the link there for you.
Okay, sure, great.
And for anybody listening, just to give context, the 12 to 24 word seed reboots your wallet. We've established that. So how do you protect that information, right? You could write it down, you could laminate it, you could put it in a safe, all these different ideas, or you could write down those words on a piece of metal or steel, because what if your house burns down, then your paper burns down. And so the idea there is to create a backup for your wallet in steel that's indestructible. And I would also say have more than one backup, right? Like you can put one at your parents' house, or, put one in a safety deposit box, or put one in a safe in your basement or whatever. But just know whoever has that has access to your keys. So you want to hide it, have multiple, and just try to keep it safe.
Pamela, real quick, there's a service. So I keep talking about Casa, but one of the cool things about Casa is that they have a seedless wallet. So they've created a product where you just don't even have to worry about your seed. You don't even set it basically at the 12 to 24 words. So that's interesting. Casa holds a third key. So you have the two keys, and Casa holds a third key. So if one of your keys becomes compromised, they can basically rotate in a new key for you because they have a third key. So you are trusting the company more than you would if you were holding your own backup, 12 to 24 words. But it's an interesting option if people are uncomfortable with the idea of having to secure those 12 to 24 words.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. We've been going for about an hour and 40 minutes. Last time we did this, I think we went for over 4 hours, which was awesome and epic, but we're not going to do that again tonight. So let's go for about 20 more minutes. We have 4 people with their hands raised. We can probably, that's 5 minutes per person. I'll leave this open for a couple more minutes, and if people want to raise their hands, we'll try to get through everyone, and then I'm going to turn off the hand raising so we can finish things up. Let's see. I believe we are on Preston, and then Barrett's your next. Thanks, guys, for being patient. We'll try to kind of get through things as efficiently as possible here.
And be sure to follow the mods here, guys, if you want to get notified when we do this again. All of our DMs are open on Twitter. Our bios have all of our links. And so if your question doesn't get answered or you have a follow-up, you can always reach us.
Yeah, and you can also become a member of Cafe Bitcoin. And you'll see anytime we do a room, regardless of who's moderating it. So I don't even know how that works. I guess you just click on Cafe Bitcoin there at the top. And then you can...
Exactly. You should be able to request to join.
Yeah, request to join there. Okay, Preston, how's it going?
Hey guys, I just joined Clubhouse for the first time in your Telegram. I've been watching your podcast. Hey guys, thank you very much for all this. So how motivated should I be to get my Bitcoin off of Swan and Coinbase? I've heard in recent news, I guess people are getting their Bitcoin off the chain, or off the other services. Do I need to be motivated to get it off of Swan right now, or can I leave it there? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Brandon, I'll toss this over to you. You wrote this article at swanbitcoin.com/wallets, which kind of talks about this idea of when should I try to hold my own keys. So yeah, I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, I definitely go to that article for the long form, but the short form answer is essentially, and you don't have to answer these, they're more rhetorical, but how much Bitcoin do I own? If I own $100, it's not worth it. If I own $1,000, probably not worth it. If I own $10,000, okay, maybe it's now start to be worth it. And so I would say just whatever amount of Bitcoin you have today, multiply that by 10, because that's what could happen really quickly. And then think, okay, if I have 10 times the amount of Bitcoin on Swan, does that make me nervous? And it's sort of a trade-off of how much effort do you want to put in how secure do you want it to be long term? Do you trust yourself? Are you motivated to learn? And so there's no easy answer, but does that give you at least a starting point, Preston?
I mean, basically, I've looked at your article on the wallets, but basically, like with government legislature and all that, everything's kind of changing day by day right now. It's bull runs, everything. Everyone's looking right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, from what I'm hearing other people, I think I heard it on Max's podcast or your podcast. I don't know which, but I've heard people are moving their Bitcoin, they're taking custody of it. I'm just wondering how motivated should I be? That's what I'm wondering.
That's a hard one. Yeah. I mean, the reality is if you're buying Bitcoin from a KYC exchange, like, we're not giving out information, but like we're a compliant business, so if we had to, we would. So it's not really a matter of, it kind of depends what you're worried about, right? Like, I would say, like, it's still a question of, is it safer with you or with a custodian? And if it's safer with you, then I would withdraw it, and it's also a good thing to learn how to do. And, it's empowering. Like, I like to be in control of my money. That's kind of the point of Bitcoin. So personally, I'm not worried about, the government coming in and like taking anyone's Bitcoin right now. I don't even see that as a possibility in the near future. Who knows? If you look back at the history of gold, that's, what everyone talks about, how, Executive Order 6102. But
yes, I was just going to say that I believe that was Nick Carter brought that up, I think, with Max.
Yeah, I mean,
it was pretty shocking to learn.
It's possible. I wouldn't say it's impossible.
It's definitely a lot harder to do with Bitcoin than it is with gold, certainly, because Bitcoin is not a physical asset that can be confiscated easily.
Right. You don't see
right? So, yeah.
They can't order your company or the trust company that's holding it. Like, you don't see them pulling some executive order like 6102.
No, I mean, not anytime soon.
Unlikely.
We are seeing a lot of like mostly positive regulation now. Mnuchin did propose this idea or kind of float this idea of not allowing or forcing basically KYC on all self-custody wallets. So we'd have to know that your wallet belongs to you basically before you could withdraw from Swan. So that is frozen right now, and the people who are coming in to that agency are much more crypto friendly. So we have, well, I guess Janet Yellen's not, but we have 3 very crypto friendly people coming into agencies that are tangential to the SEC, to the Treasury. I mean, so I definitely don't see like a 6102 thing happening anytime soon.
I'll say from a practical standpoint, if I was you, Preston, I would order myself a hardware wallet and play around with it, and set it up. Just throw $20 over there, practice, get used to it. Because it's not immediately straightforward what to do. And by doing it a few times, you'll know whether or not you feel confident in the process. And then let's say you do that today with $20, low stakes, you build your skills. And then let's say in a year from now, the regulation starts to shift and you start to get worried about that actual attack. You're already prepared. And you just click one button on Swan and your Bitcoin's in your possession in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the hardware wallet, you would recommend a hardware wallet versus I was wondering, should I go, buy, multiple hard drives, go and RAID and build a machine that's super reliable, new, hardware, and just build my own Linux, machine and hold.
No. Just go with one of the tried and true options. You've got Ledger, Cold Card, and Trezor. Those are more than sufficient. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
If you want to geek out on all that stuff, go for it, man. Sounds like you're into that kind of thing. And there's complication is the enemy of
security.
Basically security in this case. So keep it simple. But if you want to set up your own node, I definitely encourage you to check that out.
A while to just get to 40% or 45%, I think it was, and it was just exponential. It seemed every percentile. It was just
it depends on your machine. If you have a nice, like if you have a machine like you were talking about, you can sync the blockchain in 12 hours. If you're running on a Raspberry Pi, it can take 3-4 weeks. If you want to sync it from,
Yeah, sometimes it's helpful to download the chain to the external hard drive using a different machine, and then you can do it. It also depends on if you're using MyNode, which is like one of the more popular consumer node softwares. They have a quick sync, which actually works pretty great. But yeah, I would echo Brady. Like if you want to nerd out on some Bitcoin gear, like go set up a node. Like it's one thing to take self custody and be in control of your Bitcoin. It's another thing to be in control of your Bitcoin with self custody and verify it using your own node, your own copy of the blockchain. That's like your most Bitcoiner moment, I think, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who's at that stage down the rabbit hole.
Right, that does. Yeah, sounds like end goal to have it all in your custody, able to verify it. Thank you very much for that. I think that's everything. I did want to note. I think one of the previous speakers said something about. Someone said the comment about feeling like they're too late or something. On that note, if you take just a fun calculation, if you take the total Bitcoin divided by the total approximate world population, you really only need like 270,000 satoshis.
Exactly.
Like $100, just to let you guys know. Let everyone else who's feeling left out, you only need $100 to secure your portion for the future. But anyway, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Preston.
For sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so I turned off the hand raising, and I didn't realize. I thought it would just kind of keep the queue as it was, but it actually kicked everybody out of the queue. Didn't know that was going to happen. This is still a relatively new thing for me as well. So there's Barris. Okay, thanks. Raise your hand again if you're already on there, and I think we'll just take like 3 or 4 more questions. We'll just do it that way. Barris, you're coming up.
Can you guys hear me? This is my first time talking on Clubhouse.
Loud and clear.
Yep, we got you.
Oh, perfect. First of all, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for hosting. I've learned quite a bit already, even though I'm not too much of a noob. So one thing that I struggle with a little bit is I call it FUD support, is helping my friends and family sort of not get too worried about the future of Bitcoin, but some of them are sold on the math. Some of them are, they're sold on the logic and they understand it all. But they keep asking me about how much teeth does the government have? How much teeth does Jen Yellen have? Just recently she got, she's the head of the Treasury now. So can you guys help me? How do I talk to friends and family about that without freaking them out too much?
Yeah. Well, I mean, generally, the regulation has been very favorable to Bitcoin. There are, like last year, banks and any bank has the National Bank Charter is now legally able to custody Bitcoin. That was a huge regulatory win for Bitcoin that happened last year. So, there's large companies that are Bitcoin or cryptocurrency companies. Coinbase is going to IPO at some point this year. Increasingly large companies are buying Bitcoin, large amounts of it. So when you have like large corporations buying Bitcoin, large funds buying Bitcoin, even Mass Mutual, which is 140 or 50-year-old insurance institution, very conservative, bought $150 million for Bitcoin. So this is becoming well distributed amongst even the largest and most powerful corporations in this country. We have, as Brecky mentioned earlier, quite a few publicly acknowledged Bitcoiners in Congress now who are publicly advocating for the technology. So definitely trending toward being accepting of this technology, and again, understanding in this country that it's still a relatively free market, and it embraces entrepreneurship, and that's why we have the world's greatest best economy and biggest economy. And so there's a history of that in the United States. So I would expect that kind of trend to continue. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I would tell them.
I think also the fact that altcoins, the XRP has been in the news and other altcoins, and I don't think that helps, right? Because I think that contributes to the fear and uncertainty.
So
I think it's
Barris,
a good approach to just focus on Bitcoin, perhaps.
If I can add to that, I think it really depends. I think it can actually be a great teaching moment for your family to explain to them, to focus on Bitcoin and explain to them the differences, that Bitcoin literally cannot be shut down, cannot be banned, whereas some of these other things are highly centralized and can. I'm actually going to, I don't know if you're in the Telegram group, but I'm going to drop an article from the Unchained blog. It's called Bitcoin Cannot Be Banned. So it goes really in depth into this, into these types of things. But, it's also important, I think, to look at the differences between, like, when we say Bitcoin, is the government going to ban Bitcoin? Like, what does that actually mean? Can Bitcoin actually be stopped? And on the one hand, there's the idea that the network itself, Bitcoin itself, cannot be stopped by the government. I think it would take if we war gamed this the other day in another room, and I think the only viable means to actually shut down Bitcoin would be a catastrophic solar flare, something that kills all electronics on the planet. Okay, unlikely.
Right.
Or
we have other problems to worry about.
Exactly. Or every single government on the planet banding together and working together to end Bitcoin. But they can't even work on plans to deal with a pandemic or climate change. So I think dealing with this is unlikely.
Scenarios as well. It's really hard to come up with the worst case scenario. I mean, at
Exactly.
that point, you have bigger fish to fry. You have other worries. I guess they can shut down the exchanges, but as long as you have your Bitcoin on your wallet, then maybe that's not such a problem. You can just wait it out.
That's the other thing to think about. A lot of people have talked about this and how, let's say the government did make it very, very difficult to use Bitcoin, what happens when you ban something? The prices go up, so it definitely wouldn't kill Bitcoin anyway. So, yeah.
That's true.
And plus factor in everything Brady said,
right? That's a good.
Sorry,
Go
say
ahead, sorry.
Oh, I
was just saying, similar to alcohol, when there was prohibition, I think the price of alcohol went up as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So really great question. And I love this question. I was laughing out loud to myself on mute when you asked it. And I'm going to answer this from the Uncle Jim perspective, which is from Tales from the Crypt podcast. But essentially, anytime you become a Bitcoiner, you get into this, you start being passionate about it, what's going to happen is you're going to sort of evangelize a little bit to your friends. And then all of a sudden you have a little flock of sheep around you, and they're asking you all these different questions about Bitcoin. What's the government going to do? They see some news and they hit you and they're like, Boris, should I sell? Whatever. And so you sort of take on the responsibility of being a support rep in your little community. And I feel that personally in my own life. And just as a practical tip, I would look into the community of other Bitcoin people, because tons of people address the common FUD of the week publicly. And so you can follow someone on Twitter or on Clubhouse or on Medium, and you'll see the common retorts to the news. And so then you don't have to actually get smart on everything yourself. That's point one, Uncle Jim. Point two, on the regulatory teeth. One thing to add, Gary Gensler, the nominee for the incoming SEC chair, he taught a course on cryptocurrencies at MIT. He's pretty friendly to the space. And
what's his name again, Brandon?
Gary Gensler.
Okay.
Yeah, you can Google him. And from an architecture standpoint, Bitcoin made design trade-offs from the very beginning in a way so where it cannot be killed. That was goal number one, make it indestructible, because knowing what Bitcoin is capable of, which is removing the power over money from the state and giving it back to the people, that's not something to take lightly. And so design trade-offs were make it unstoppable. Going to Brecky's point, which is you can't actually kill it. You can just sort of try to push it out of your state, which only harms your people. And from a legislation perspective and sort of a tone from our regulators, there is the resurgence of innovation is good, do no harm, and sort of approaching this wave of innovation similar to how the internet was approached. And that worked out really well for America. America built most of the commercial internet. We benefited tremendously. And so I think that's a really strong force to not be underestimated. And like to the point of what they can do, I think they can wage information warfare, and they will. They'll say things like terrorists use Bitcoin, or white supremacists use Bitcoin, or China uses Bitcoin, or whatever. They might do something like that. I expect it. And they can also try to guard the on-ramps and the off-ramps. So the Bitcoin network itself, you pretty much can't regulate, and you can't confiscate. You can't really do anything to it. However, anytime you interact with the fiat world, that is a point of vulnerability. And so you can expect them to try to shine a light on the Bitcoin network and try to say, well, we want to know, fine, you can have this money, but we want to know who owns it and what they're doing with it. And so I think there's a high likelihood that we lose privacy, especially connecting to the fiat world. I think we should expect that. But again, I don't think there's any political will to push this thing away. It actually solves a real problem in America, which is that we need a new financial system. Devaluation's coming. This is kind of a get out of jail free card. I don't think our country realizes that yet, but they might. And there's tremendous money to be made here. And so I think the dollar sign will save us. And lastly, we're having a moment where really powerful people, the political elite, the donor class who essentially influence politics, they're buying Bitcoin right now for selfish reasons. They want to save their own wealth, and Bitcoin does that. And so now with all the wealthy, powerful donor class owning Bitcoin, that sort of puts up a shield of people who can put their tie on and go to bat and say, hey, don't do that. You know, we like Bitcoin. And so I'm feeling that, like, a risk reward standpoint, Bitcoin has never been better from that ratio. And so I think, like, buying Bitcoin today is maybe as good of a trade as buying it at 3,200 in March. Maybe it's even a better trade today because it's been de-risked so much. So that's my rant there.
Great points all around, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming up. Appreciate it, man. And yeah, I hope to see you again in the future here on Clubhouse. All right, we're going to take these last two questions, and then we'll end it for tonight. This is our new club. It's just got approved recently, called Cafe Bitcoin. Click on that at the top there and request to join, and we'll approve it. We're just going to grow a big club of people who are interested in Bitcoin, and we'll all learn from each other as this thing grows. It's going to be a really exciting year or two for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's always exciting no matter what the price action is. In fact, I actually enjoy the bear markets as a place, a time to kind of hunker down and learn a lot more and scoop up some cheaper Bitcoin, planning for the long term. So we'll be here with Swan Bitcoin for a long, long time, hopefully. And we'll be continuing to educate and talk about Bitcoin. So join the club, Cafe Bitcoin. And we'll be doing this on Monday nights. Most Monday nights, our goal is to do it every Monday night. And so hopefully we'll make that happen. Justin, welcome up to the stage.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
How's it going?
Good. Okay, so I actually accept Bitcoin as a merchant on my website. So I had a question about Bitcoin as a merchant and kind of like the security and workflow process with that. So one, we brought up earlier about like the verifying Bitcoin with your own full node. So I'm of the understanding that as a merchant, I run a node through Lunanode, and it's through BTC Pay, and so technically I run a full node, right? But I don't really understand what it means to. I know what the full node is, but like I am not personally checking the node and verifying it. How am I actually verifying it with my own full node? And then I had a second part to when the funds actually come in from a transaction. But I don't know. Should I continue or should I?
Hey Justin. So
yeah, no, we can pause there.
So for more in-depth questions, I would definitely join the BTC Pay Telegram group, and I can get you that link later if you want. If you just shoot me a DM on Twitter. Generally speaking, though, when you're running BTC Pay, basically you're doing a couple of things. For anyone listening, by the way, BTC Pay Server is a open source self-hosted payment processor that uses Bitcoin. But basically, on your Luna node instance, what you're running a couple of things. So one, you're running Bitcoin Core. You're running basically actually, I'm not positive it's Bitcoin Core, but you're running Bitcoin software. You're also running a Lightning node if you have Lightning enabled. And then you're also running BTC Pay, which is separate software. I'm not actually sure how it all links together, but basically, you're running the payment processor, and it will verify transactions that come in based off, it will basically cross-reference your copy of the blockchain, of the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's how that is working. Does that kind of answer your question or not really?
Yeah, I think it does. And it is kind of technical, so I'll have to dig in for more. But that kind of does make sense now, because I remember setting it all up. But then the other thing that kind of confuses me sometimes is, so I got a full, I don't get a ton of transactions coming in through Bitcoin just because, that's just how it is. I don't get a ton anyway, but most of them come through PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other thing is I have two Trezors. One, I gotta be careful security-wise, but one is just simply for the transactions on my website. Well, the whole reason I have two is because I know that, like, if you go on Blockchain Explorer and like public blockchain things, like every time you send a transaction or receive one, it's all like traceable. So in my head, I thought, I don't want the customers buying from my website to see where their funds are going and then seeing that those funds are going to like whatever other wallets I have. Mm-hmm. Am I like incorrect in that security thinking to like never touch those?
You're on the right track in terms of thinking about this for sure. Technically speaking, let's say a customer buys something from you, they send Bitcoin to you, and then you take that Bitcoin that is, let's say it's on your Trezor or linked to the wallet there, and you send it somewhere else. If a customer is savvy enough, they can then see where that Bitcoin is going. I will say there are ways to kind of disintermediate that, to kind of break those links and increase your privacy. And this is definitely a more advanced topic, and I'm not an expert on this. But if you want, shoot me a DM on Twitter. I'll send you the BTC Pay link, and I can also send you a link for a full guide on Bitcoin privacy that'll really go in depth on how to think about this and how to preserve your privacy.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate your time and help.
Sure, man.
Thank you, Justin. Really appreciate your time as well, and thanks for being a merchant who accepts Bitcoin. That's an awesome thing to do, and BTC Pay Server is a great software to use. So congratulations on all that. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys.
If anyone's actually interested in signing up for Swan and also interested in supporting BTC Pay Server, you can do both by going to swanbitcoin.com/BTCPay. And we like to encourage people to support open source development and Bitcoin development. There's actually another website called, what is it? BitcoinDevList.com? Yeah, BitcoinDevList.com, where you can support Bitcoin developers. We'd encourage you to do that, whether you're a whale or a minnow. Welcome, Corey. How are you doing today?
Corey is here. He cannot talk at the moment, but he wanted to join the stage, and I wanted to let everybody know that you can. This is our founder and CEO of Swan, Corey. Give him a follow. He is really active on Clubhouse and talking Bitcoin and doing great things here. So definitely give him a follow. And again, you can become a member of Cafe Bitcoin, our new club here. Just click on Cafe Bitcoin at the top and request to join, and we'll accept all people interested in Bitcoin into the club. So let's bring up Ahmed. And we'll just take these last two questions from Ahmed and Skit, and then we'll be done for tonight. Wrap it up. Ahmed, welcome. What can we answer for you?
Thank you. I'm very new to all of this, so I've really just learned a lot from this session today. So thank you for putting this on first and foremost. I'm a student and kind of started just saving my internship money, invest in crypto, and been doing so through Robinhood. However, it's my first time hearing about cold storage. It's pretty much a very beginner question, but I just wanted to just kind of ask you, break down cold storage for me and what are the advantages of it?
Yes, good question. So the advantages of cold storage are that your Bitcoin is not accessible on the internet. So cold storage, the difference between cold storage and hot storage, Hot storage just means that your Bitcoin is accessible on the internet, so it's on an internet-connected wallet, a software wallet. And cold storage is where you use a device like a ledger or a Trezor or a cold card. These are like little USB devices that do not connect to the internet and hold your keys in like a secure element. So they're offline, which is what we call cold storage. So that the benefit is it's more secure. And because it's not connected to the internet in any way. And again, those are your private keys that you're holding. It's not actually your Bitcoin on that wallet. The Bitcoin is on the blockchain. It's a ledger that's distributed and copied around the world, and then independently verified by tens of thousands of nodes around the world. And what you keep on your hardware wallet is the private keys to basically unlock and move or spend the Bitcoin that you have on the ledger on the blockchain. So yeah, it's just taking it offline and making it more secure.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions you have?
How would can I do that through Swan Bitcoin, or is there a particular service I can go through to do that for myself?
Yeah. In fact, we encourage you to, and support in every way we can you to withdraw your Bitcoin and hold your own private keys. We have a very trusted, highly used by in the industry custodian called Prime Trust. So your keys are as safe as they could be on Prime Trust. But when you are ready to withdraw your keys, we make that very easy. We have even automated withdrawals. So you can just do one click in your email to confirm whenever you hit a certain threshold, like 0.02 BTC or something, you're ready to withdraw. You'll get an email, one click confirm, and it'll be sent into your wallet. And we don't charge withdrawal fees. So that is certainly a way that we stand out against most other exchanges in the United States. So yeah, you could get a hardware wallet. If you go to, actually, I think the best thing to do is just go to swanbitcoin.com/wallets, read an article that Brandon put together. There's lots of options there. It actually explains the difference between hot wallets and cold wallets, and there's the different cold wallets, the USB wallets you can buy, kind of compared to each other, and then services like Casa and Unchained Capital that provide multi-signature wallet solutions that are services that are definitely worth a look. That is kind of the next step up from holding on an individual hardware wallet. So yeah, there's some resources there, and DM us. We're happy to answer any questions and help point you in the right direction. You can DM us on Twitter. All of our DMs are open. So yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'll be sure to reach out.
All right. Appreciate that, man. All right. Last question of the night goes to Skit. All right. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Quick question. So I was wondering, what do you guys really what is your guys' opinion on buying Bitcoin, just like a Bitcoin itself? Right now I see some stock for I think 32,000. So do you would you recommend anybody buying just a full Bitcoin, or kind of buying partial?
And that's totally up to you, obviously, but you can. I mean, it's important to understand that you can buy a portion of a Bitcoin. You can buy $1, you can buy $5, $10, and it's divisible. One Bitcoin is divisible down 8 decimal places, and that's that last little sliver. The smallest unit of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi, named after the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, or we just call it Sats for short. So the process of accumulating Bitcoin, we call stacking Sats, and you can buy thousands of Sats for a small amount of money and just keep stacking them. And that's exactly what we do at Swan. That's what we specialize in. If it's $10 a week or couple $100 a week or whatever, you can just kind of accumulate that, and eventually you might get up to the whole Bitcoin over the course of a year or whatever. If you have a big chunk of change, then you're ready to kind of throw down, and then like you can do that on Swan as well. Kind of establish your position, and then with whatever like income you have coming in every month, you can add to that stack. So I mean, I think either approach is good, but you can definitely buy a portion of a Bitcoin.
Brady, I'll add to that a little bit if you don't mind. I think a couple of things to consider. Like one, like how. What is a large? Don't say this, but like, what is a large amount of money to you? Like, if the amount of Bitcoin you're considering buying is a lot of money to you, then I think your conviction and your belief and your understanding of Bitcoin should be pretty high. Like, don't go throwing money into Bitcoin without understanding it. A lot of us, me, Brady, Brandon, Corey, like we're all, we've spent a lot of time studying Bitcoin. We all believe in Bitcoin, so for us, our conviction levels are very high, and like we put a percentage of our income into Bitcoin. For me, I do it every day. I use Swan's daily plan, right? So it kind of depends on where you're at in the journey of understanding Bitcoin and like what the reason is for doing it. Like I wouldn't just like go all in and buy a Bitcoin without knowing why I'm doing it. But if you believe in Bitcoin, you think it's a long-term hedge against inflation, or it's going to go up in value because of all the because of the situation of the world, or due to its scarcity properties, and there's a lot of reasons to do it. But I would say if it's a large amount of money to you, don't do it lightly, and have a good reason to do it. But we're all believers in Bitcoin, so
understandable. My last question is with other other cryptos out there and everything like that, do you think that it would be smarter to like just invest and put a small portion in each one, or or should you just focus on like Bitcoin?
The short answer is Bitcoin is a layup and you're wide open, and everything else is a half-court shot with your eyes closed.
That's a great one, dude. You got to tweet that. I mean, something I tell everyone is, anyone who's new, this is the advice I give everyone, is like, spend your time and do your due diligence on Bitcoin before you even think about looking at anything else. Bitcoin has been de-risked. It's the highest risk-adjusted return in this space. And I would also say that whether they realize it or not, these other cryptocurrencies are competing with Bitcoin as money. And, if you subscribe to sort of the Austrian economic view of these things, the hardest, soundest money in the long term is going to win, and that's Bitcoin. So there are a million reasons why I personally don't believe in any of these altcoins, whether it's them being centralized or, the reality, at least from my point of view, is that they're all competing against Bitcoin and they're destined to fail. And so if you're doing long-term, if you want to call it investing, long-term investing, you're thinking long-term, like there's only one answer, and that's Bitcoin. Some people go out and they do trading, whatever, and like they're able to time markets. I can't time markets, and I don't think most people can unless they're experts or they've been in the space forever. So unless if you're not doing that, and even if you are, like, I'd still say Bitcoin. Long answer.
Yeah, man, go for that breakaway dunk. That's where it's at. Just accumulate the Bitcoin. The rest of the stuff is just a casino. I wouldn't even say it's a half court shot. It's like it's like from the opposite free throw line. Like, wow. It's just not even the same league, really. It's not even on the same court. So it's just, Bitcoin's a real player on the global monetary stage, man. It's super serious at this point, and everything else is just an experiment right now. So just go with the big dog.
I got you guys, man. Thank you. I'm gonna follow you guys right now. Do you guys like have open lines to ask questions and things like that? Because I'm just new to all this, so I'm just
Yeah, join the club, Cafe Bitcoin. Just click on that at the top, become a member. You can follow all of us up here on the stage. We're on Bitcoin rooms a lot here in Clubhouse, and we're starting to run more and more of our own. We're going to be here on Monday nights, kind of talking more beginner level Bitcoin stuff. So yeah, we'll be around. And then all of our Twitter accounts are linked in our bios as well. DMs are open. So yeah, we're definitely accessible, and don't hesitate to reach out.
I'd also recommend checking out, if you go to, I think it's in all of our profiles, but it's just swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. It has tons of resources. It has that free book. I don't know if you were here earlier when we mentioned it, but it's a free copy of Inventing Bitcoin. We have it in an audio book. It's a short book, and it's like, it'll get you from 0 to 60 in terms of understanding how Bitcoin works, why it's important, kind of a lot of the things we were discussing, and it's short and it's accessible. So I'd highly recommend starting with that.
Yeah.
And then I think there are more resources there, and our DMs are open. If you're like, hey, I'm looking for a podcast, like, can you recommend one? Like, hit us up. We're happy to help.
For sure. Yeah. I just, honestly, when I listened to you guys, I just really just started understanding the Swan when you told me about that.
Yeah. So all of us up here on the stage are with swanbitcoin.com.
Okay.
And we make it super simple to accumulate Bitcoin. It's just the best way to accumulate Bitcoin in the United States. It's you connect your bank account. We automatically withdraw whatever you tell us to from your bank account, turn it into Bitcoin, and you can just keep stacking up. You log in every once in a while to your account, check your dashboard, and you got more Bitcoin. So it's really simple. We have low fees as well. We're really focused on education, super accessible to kind of help you figure out what's going on here and level up your understanding. So yeah, check us out at swanbitcoin.com and create an account and just start stacking a little bit. And as your knowledge about this grows, your confidence about Bitcoin grows, then you'll want to start stacking more. Most likely, that's what happens with most of us. So,
I got you, man. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Skip. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right. So that closes it up for tonight. Went for 2 hours 20 minutes. That was a great session. Thank you all for joining us today. It was a lot of awesome questions. Again, it's just really just inspiring and exhilarating to kind of go back and feel that sort of fresh, new to Bitcoin feel and relive that. It's been almost 4 years for me now. And so it's fun to kind of see that passion and discovery. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate all of you. swanbitcoin.com/clubhouse. All the stuff we mentioned tonight, resources and stuff, are on that page. So check that out. You can follow all of us up here on the stage. I'm Brady Swenson, Head of Education at Swan. Brecky Von Bitcoin is our creative director. Brandon Quidham is our communications lead. And Corey Clipston is our founder and CEO. So we're around on Clubhouse a lot, and check out the service we're providing. I think it's the best way to start stacking sets. So I hope to see you again here on Clubhouse, and hit us up on Twitter if you have any questions. We are happy to answer them. Do not hesitate. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, also, real quick before we go, if you missed something in the questions, you want to go back, there's a replay of this available on our YouTube. You can go back and listen to the whole thing all over again. So take care, everybody.
Good night.